The viral document is now taking off, calling for the central bank, the Federal Reserve, to be shut down in the U.S. And Elon Musk backs this up and even takes it a step further. And he says the Federal Reserve is totally overstaffed and posts graphics to show just how pointless this institution is and that it needs to come to an end now. They also want to audit the Federal Reserve. And Ron Paul says that as soon as the audit takes place, the Fed has to be shut down automatically because so much dirt is happening here in the Federal Reserve, and this audit would automatically lead to its closure. Because there's this viral document, which is nothing less than a law, a new version of the law to end the Federal Reserve. This whole thing was set up by Thomas Massie, and it's really taking off right now. We really need to take a close look at this document, especially since there's growing support to end the Federal Reserve, not just from big names like Elon Musk, but also Ron Paul and a whole lot of people are now on board with finally shutting down the Federal Reserve for good. Robert Kiyosaki says the Federal Reserve is a criminal gang that needs to be held accountable, because it can't be that for over a century or so. Humanity has been misled like this. Many people also claim that the biggest fraud of the last 100 years is the Federal Reserve, the central bank here in the U.S. This is massively misleading people. But now we're going to take a look at the really explosive developments here surrounding Elon Musk and the new viral document that calls for shutting down the Federal Reserve. Before we dive into Elon Musk's statement, let's first take a look at the document that Thomas Massie posted. And here it says, Congressman Massie introduces the Federal Reserve Board, Abolition Act HR. He explains, Americans would be better off if the Federal Reserve didn't exist. The Fed devalues our currency by monetizing debt, which causes inflation. So that's definitely very, very true. Bukele also mentioned that the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor does it have a reserve. A lot of people think it has a reserve or something like that, but that's not the case. There was also this super viral speech from Bukele where he said, hey, people are being totally misled, because people are trapped in the illusion that the state is subsidized or maintained through taxes. But that's not the case. This also shows that the Department of Government Efficiency indicates there's a huge deficit in the U.S. So, a state isn't funded by taxes or anything like that. Rather, a state is financed through new debt. Not everyone, but especially in the U.S. So, when push comes to shove, they can just print money. But people are given the illusion that they are contributing something here. That the state is somehow being subsidized and that the state is being maintained here. And the craziest part is, the U.S. just issues new debt. The U.S. just keeps getting more in debt. The U.S. can print its own money. And if you now ask yourself what the Federal Reserve is backed by, then the answer is, the Federal Reserve is backed by government bonds. Government bonds are issued themselves and are essentially just paper claims. And when you ask who buys the government bonds, sure, they're also bought on the open market, but the government bonds are also purchased, among other things, by the Federal Reserve. That's when you really start to see the game and the massive fraud behind it, because the government bonds aren't really bought by the free market on the other side, but largely by the central bank itself. So, the central bank prints money, but it's backed by its own little pieces of paper that it issues in the form of government bonds. But they buy them back themselves. And that's a huge Ponzi scheme that's based solely on trust. As soon as trust in US government bonds starts to fade, the whole system will collapse, and the whole system just stops working. And 95% of people keep paying. They bravely pay their taxes and think that by paying their taxes, the state budget is somehow being maintained. Of course, that's true to a certain extent, but the majority of it is simply printed here. So, this is being financed here, and yeah. But we definitely need to get back to the article where it says that the Fed keeps devaluing our money. Or rather, not an article, but the legislative proposal that's being reintroduced now. So, there was already a proposal like this, and now it's all being brought back, as I understand it. And the cool thing is, this is really cool. We should actually do something like this in Germany, like an end to the ECB or something, because the exciting part is exactly what's coming to light now. So, it's being published. Okay, here comes the new legislative proposal. And then Rotmus writes here, who always makes really cool tweets on X. He says, remember the names of the Republicans who will vote against this. So, that means this is a legislative proposal that, I don't know, will probably be debated here and then also voted on. And here you can clearly see, okay, who is advocating for the Federal Reserve to be shut down, and who is not. That the Federal Reserve gets shut down. And you could do the same thing in Europe, at least kickstarting it, either ECB or something like that. And then you could clearly see, okay, who is on the side of the ECB, who is on the side of the criminal gang, and who is not on the side of the ECB. I have to take back calling them a criminal gang, otherwise I'll get some lawyer letters or something like that. You can decide that for yourselves. You can judge for yourself whether it's a criminal gang or not. Definitely, by putting forward such a legislative proposal, even if it doesn't pass, you can clearly see which politicians are promoting corruption, which ones support it, and which ones do not. And in the US, that's how it's being done now. And I find that to be a very, very interesting approach. But I don't know enough about the law here, whether this is the case here. Has a chance of getting through, the law or something. I don't really think it has a chance of going through here. I mean, I could see it ending more like an audit, like Elon Musk announced, where they do an audit of the Federal Reserve, and then, as Ron Paul said, so many dirty things come out that the Fed would basically have to shut down because of all the scandals. Or something like that. But now let's actually take a look at what Elon Musk has said about this. Because Elon Musk confirms all of this here. Here, Rotmus is posting again, end the Fed. And Elon Musk says here, the Fed is absurdly overstaffed and confirms that the Fed should basically be shut down. And here you can just see some data. Here, you can see, basically, this is what the Fed website says. So yeah, the Federal Reserve. Here it is. The Federal Reserve has over 500 employees, plus around 400 PhD folks. These are business people or economists who represent a wide range of different interests and fields, from various areas of expertise. And here you can see, this is how the Fed workers vote. And in the lower graphic that I just showed you, you can see here, donations from Fed employees to political parties. Based on the data from Open Secrets, the bars show that since 2016, donations have clearly favored the Democrats. In 2020, according to the graphic, 92% of the donations went to the Democrats, which suggests that the Fed is heavily biased and tends to support the Democratic Party. And that's why you can see the shift now, where the Republicans want to take this down. So, hear about Trump and so on. Trump has, I don't even know if he said it yet, but I think he has mentioned that he wants to audit the Fed or something like that. It would make more sense for the Republicans to want to audit the whole thing and possibly shut it down. And this would also have a massive effect on Bitcoin and the global financial markets. I mean, just imagine that. That would be a huge argument for Bitcoin if it comes out what kind of shady stuff is going on at the Federal Reserve. I mean, that's the thing. Bitcoin doesn't even have to perform that well. The fiat system is destroying itself. And because it's destroying itself, let's just say Bitcoin wins here. Bitcoin is gaining popularity and attraction. The little hodler sees it this way, too. By the way, if you want to get one of these cool hodlers, check out the Bitcoin Hotel shop. Here you can buy these cool hodlers. There are also a ton of other merch, cool things that you can get here. Just check it out. I'll put the link down below for you. Absolutely recommended. And now we need to keep looking at the Federal Reserve because this whole thing is a really, really hot topic. So it could actually be the case that for 100 years we've been enslaved by the Federal Reserve. It is not just that the people in the USA are enslaved, but people in Europe, in other regions. Exactly, because the USA has the largest currency area here. And now we've been enslaved here for 100 years. And now it could be that things finally turn around here. I mean, whether it actually leads to a closure, I still doubt that. But at least the fact that such institutions are being questioned is already a really, really big step forward. And I actually found a really, really interesting video here that caught my attention while I was researching all of this. Check out this video, here from Ericsson, who also has a YouTube channel where he often documents and talks about Bitcoin. Very, very interesting YouTube channel that he has. But check out what he has to say about the euro. And you can directly transfer that to the dollar and the Federal Reserve. So, I found this a very, very interesting perspective. First of all, addressing the euro, it's intrinsically worthless. But you also have to say, Bitcoin is theoretically intrinsically worthless here. Everything is intrinsically worthless because value is always subjective. But there's always such a big mystery made out of it. The euro is backed by the state and whatever. Push the cake, it's just a piece of paper money. As long as people believe in it, the bill will be accepted. Once people lose faith, that bill just won't be accepted anymore. And then the comparison here was also interesting, with the bill and Bitcoin versus Bitcoin. That already says here, hey, Bitcoin is what? It's backed, where you have a clear promise that one Bitcoin is always one Bitcoin. Nobody can manipulate it, nobody can inflate it. That's why. This is much more efficient for a reserve than if you were to use some other shitcoin, where you don't know, okay, is this thing going to be inflated? Are the rules being changed? And so on. And, like I said, you can use your Bitcoin, you can. Do whatever you want with it. And those are cool applications and stuff. And you can play around with it. And maybe there are also use cases and so on. But when it comes to having a store of value here, then many crypto projects are simply not suitable. Actually, only Bitcoin is suitable here. And that's another very, very good, important closing statement here. Definitely write down in the comments below, should we end the Fed? And also hit that like button if you want the European Central Bank to be shut down. So I really want to see all the comments and all the likes from those who want to shut down the ECB. So it's not like I'm pushing this here, or something like that, but just to get some feedback on what your situation looks like. And if you don't want corrupt money, but you want real, hard money, then I'll drop a link down below for you. 21 Bitcoin. How you can easily, safely, and simply buy Bitcoin. Here, you can get up to 20% off the fees when buying Bitcoin with the code GUYS. I'm signing off. See you later. Peace out.